Hi, everybody. I'm Gene Carr. I'm here with Ev Lundy and Leo Heidi, both of whom are Oberlin College interns. And I'm pleased to introduce you today to Brendan Coleman. He's the creative producer of the Fremantle International Street Arts Festival. Welcome, Brendan, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. So glad to be here.
Now, before we get too far, some folks in our audience may simply not know where Fremantle is. So why don't you set the stage for where you are and give us some background on the festival.
Yeah, so Fremantle is the port town of Perth, which is the capital city of Western Australia. So a population of Perth, around 2 million people. And we're on the west coast of Australia. So for those people that don't know Australia so much, is that we're the largest state, and we're also in the least populous state. We're a large, huge state, a bit like you might see in Canada or whatnot. Similarities there, with a lot of the population of Australia being on the east coast and whatnot. But yeah, climate's kind of, I've heard, a bit like San Diego, perhaps in California. Yeah, or Greece or somewhere like that. Yeah, nice warm winters and with rain and hot, dry summers and so forth. So,
and tell us a little about the festival and how did it get started and how many people come? Set the stage for us, if you would.
So the first festival was in 1999, 23 years ago, and it came out of the natural busking culture of Fremantle. Now, Fremantle's a port town. It's a historic town. It attracts a lot of tourists on the weekend, as well as being a very arty town in its own. So it has a lot of artists here. And there's always, on any given Sunday or Saturday, weekend, or even during the week, you can find either musical buskers or what we call circle show buskers, circus or cabaret, or all varieties of forms, gathering people, delivering really high quality, fun, busking style entertainment, and then passing the hat at the end. Now, that's always existed in the culture here. So in 1999, the local council, the city of Fremantle, thought, let's just try and capture this little bit and celebrate it with a festival over Easter. Easter was chosen because there was a natural 4 days of public holidays, which allowed, I guess, a longer time for it to happen. And it also is a time where people are looking to come to Freo and just spend time here. And immediately, it was very small, and I actually performed in the first one as a circus performer busker myself. It was very modest. We did one street closure, and it captured people's imaginations. The businesses really loved it. The public really loved it. The performers really loved being celebrated that way and did well, of course. And again, it was just a small thing, very modest program, publicity, things like that. But so then it just built from there. And in the short answer, from there, it really just kept going each year. It started to attract people from interstate. It started to attract internationals that were in Australia at the time. And then we find ourselves here now. It's evolved from not just presenting busking, but also presenting outdoor theatre and street theatre, roving acts, anything, any kind of visual arts, anything that can be staged outside and that the public can come down. That's the festival at its core, and its values, of course. It's very democratic and accessible. You don't have to go into a venue. You don't have to buy a ticket. You can just come along and encounter things, or you can grab a program and walk around and seek things out. Yeah, that's the ethos of the festival.
And is it still a 4-day festival over the Easter? Is that the time frame?
Absolutely, that's right. So it always goes from Friday to Mondays, and we work into the evenings on Saturday and Sundays as well.
And how many performers do you have, and how many people come? Give us a sense of scope.
Yeah, so over the 4 days, like, it's obviously built over time, but we've been getting consistently between 100 and 150,000 people come down and through the city. And so shows can vary from roving acts, which go and encounter people, right up to stages with 1,000 people at times.
Yeah, wow.
Yes, and it has an amazing amounts of, so people come down. Fremantle's quite a pretty town. It's got beaches, it's got ports, it's got historic buildings. It allows people to come down in a way and choose their own adventure. They may encounter the festival by coming down, having fish and chips with their relatives over Easter, maybe watching one show. We have people that are highly committed and come and sit on a balcony overlooking the road closure and stay there all day. Watching show after show. So it allows people to experience Fremantle a different way, and also the festival in quite an open way.
And how many performers do you have at any one time and over the course of the event?
Yeah. So the festival began just as a locals only thing for budget reasons, and now we actually have the ability, through support and just building the festival with sponsors, to fly people in from around the world. So the ethos is more of a curated, best in the world type approach. We fly people in from North America, Europe, Japan, and so on, wherever we can find, and curating the best folks. So we have usually around about sort of 25 international performers, maybe that number again, interstate performers, and then locals can be a couple of hundred depending, because we have sort of community aspects to it as well, from large scale community percussion groups and so forth. Yeah, but a core number of, say, about 20 to 30 invited, flown in kind of guests. And then the community also, you can get out to 300 artists depending on, the style of works and so forth.
Wow. And give us a sense for kind of the scope of your operation, the budget size, how big is your staff? How do you pull that off?
Yeah. So the City of Fremantle contribute $250,000 to the event. And we also get around about another 100 or so in local business sponsorship. So for the event that we're producing, although that's a reasonable budget and a lot more than we used to have at the beginning, it's very modest for what we produce. And the synergies, the busking model of the public paying the performers to some degree, although we do provide them with a retainer, so there's some security. If it rains or if there's some problem, allows us to get quite a lot from the investment made in terms of outcome. We have done very sort of high level research on numbers and impacts and so forth of the festival. And I think we did about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was calculated that the event brings in around about $5.7 million into the city and through the businesses. So as well as being a high quality and accessible arts festival for the ratepayers and the broader public, it has a massive economic impact. And
I was going to say that's more than a 25 times investment. That's a extraordinary outcome.
Exactly. And obviously we've built a brand and people know about it now. You've created a tradition and a certainty for the businesses to plan. And I guess in some, it becomes every year we try and expand into other areas of the city. We haven't been and involve stakeholders and businesses that haven't been involved as much as we can. And we do that by street closures and inviting people to bring chairs and tables out, or somewhat come up with a different way to perhaps capitalize it and be involved.
And how long have you been the creative force? And tell us about your journey. You started as a performer, but tell us a little bit about your own role.
Yeah, sure. So I actually performed in the first 5 festivals from 99 to 2003 as a circus performer in various duos and solo and whatnot. And then the position, it had various coordinators. The position came up to be the coordinator. I took it in 2004. And I've been in that position since then. So it's been quite a massive part of my life and something I've really enjoyed. And I guess with my background, it's been natural. It's a niche thing, actually, programming, sort of street performers. So it is something that I like when I'm booking folks. I do understand the animal. I do understand what they need and what we can do to make it work. So it's something I've become quite passionate about. And I guess in some ways that's how we've taken the audience on a 22-year ride. And every year the audience has come back and they want more. So we've moved naturally into curating something which is like a high quality, best in the world approach, so that we can be delivering and we can be educating and moving an audience and also celebrating people to see and expect the very best in street entertainment.
And how big is your team?
We're quite small relatively. So I'm employed by the City of Fremantle 3 days a week, and we have in our festivals events team 3 part-time staff and 1 coordinator. Now, we also work over 2 other events throughout the year. So we have a music festival in winter, there's a heritage festival and a winter arts festival. So we are planning this. Being on a position throughout the year allows us to work on a 12-month cycle, which is very important because you're always in some point of the cycle.
Right.
And we bring in contracted production managers, contracted audio production, contracted security, contracted first aid, all of those things that normally you have in events and so forth. We have contract publicists now. We have a little bit of in-house marketing and so forth, but graphic designers. Essentially, the ethos has always been, and because we have the natural advantages of the city, is to invest heavily on the quality of the program and then let that kind of be the primary driver for people. Yeah, we try and minimize production as much as we can, but trying to give a good experience. We try to minimize over marketing costs and so forth, and just really put it into creating something special each year.
Beautiful. Let me let Ev and Leo ask some questions. Ev, do you have a question?
Fire away.
Yeah, so I was wondering, how has COVID-19 impacted the operations of your festival, and do you see any of these changes being long-term?
Yeah, the first year it was a disaster because it was this time last year. We literally had flights booked. I prepared all the visas, the artist visas. We were pretty much ready to go. 10,000 programs printed. Yeah, so it was heartbreaking and having to pull out and set people back. And thankfully, people hadn't arrived in the country or anything like that. But yeah, it was, and I guess all of us were feeling that shock of what is about to happen and what is happening. Throughout the year, this year it's been challenging in that we've always been listening to health advice from government and trying to plan in a way to see if we can present something. So it's been a frustrating year. Look, we've pretty much spent up till around about November where we decided that this is probably best not to go forward in trying to find models that would make it work. Whether that be fencing the park, controlling numbers, thinning stages, just having roving. We've looked at everything to try and get something happening so that there can be at least be some presentation for the artists, for the businesses and thing. And ultimately it was, even in a place like Western Australia, where we've literally only had 1-2 week lockdown, very little community transmission, but we are under quite strict event conditions. It felt like we've done a lot of work and that didn't eventuate. But having said that, there's been some really lovely green shoots in that we've moved the budget over now to create this really lovely work with the Australian Street Theatre Company, which I won't get into too much about it because it's not public realm yet, but it's going to be based alongside an outdoor program inside venues. So in large warehouses and whatnot. So we're future-proofing 2022 by allowing ourselves to have a project that will be large scale, invite community, but allow to work. If we're still under controlled numbers and whatnot, we'll definitely have something to present in 2022. So we've evolved, taken time, evaluated, tried to work out how to use our resource and come up with something where if we go for gold, everything we're back in normal model, we've got a COVID safe project. Worst case scenario, we have got a really lovely, high quality, engaging project that will allow us to come back.
Got it. I have one question that I'm going to go to Leo. Tell us a little bit you about the artists that you bring in. You said you bring in artists from Japan and from North America. Give us a flavor of the kinds of acts and performers that you would bring in.
Yeah, each country has its kind of quirky cultures and strengths and whatnot. For example, we can bring in occasionally, French companies, and they have a history of street theatre going back a millennia, and particularly in the last, sort of few hundred years, are well supported. A country like France always has really high quality, interesting, absurd, creative theatre and performers. A country like, say, Spain is famous for Catalonian clowning and fantastic street theatre interaction. A country like Japan, again, having its own natural flavour, but high skilled circus and really highly disciplined and beautiful works. One of the interesting things about the festival and for the people of Fremantle is it allows you to experience these different styles of work and different cultures.
All at once.
That's part of the attraction. And for the performers themselves, it's fantastic to each year the performers are meeting new people they've never met from different places of the world that do similar things and building community. And these performers go on to become connected for years to come. And that's one of the most rewarding and fun things myself, hosting this event and allowing those connections to happen. And it's a bit like a party, really, in some ways.
I'm there. Leo, you have a question?
Yeah, that's actually a great segue to my question, which is year after year, is there a specific aspect of your festival that continuously remains your favorite?
Yeah, so it is the gathering. There are festivals like Fremantle all over the world, and you may be aware, but when you dig deep, they're into them. And a lot of performers, they travel the world and they rely on traveling to go those places. And some of them are they might live in a small country town in France, or even say, who was I pointing out? Someone like Hilby who lives in Ithaca and Europe, but they travel to Canada and around the Europe. So they're almost like for migratory birds, these ponds that these festivals come and allow people to do a circuit. So the festival becomes a really important social connection for people that have known each other for a long time. Their gatherings, the flag raise, the time. So that just extending from what I'm saying, it's really exciting and fun to be around that, for people to come together and greet each other and hug and be together, and then also at the same time meet and make connections with new people. So that, as well as the outcomes, I love being involved in that, and I love meeting new people and being inspired by that.
I tell you, you exude excitement and energy in your job, and what a great thing. What a great thing to be able to have a job that brings so much creativity and so much energy. And you've been doing it for a lot of years, and it seems like this year is your first year. So let me ask, is there anything about the festival in Fremantle that you would like folks in the United States to know about that we haven't asked about yet?
Oh, I'd love to see that. Like I said, there's many festivals throughout the world that we tap into and performers come from, but there's very few that are existing in the United States. So I'd love to see this culture be celebrated a bit more in North America. Canada, very strong street performance culture in most major cities and even some of the minor ones as well. And so I'd love to see America embrace it. You've got the weather in various places. I think you've certainly got the artists. I'd just love to see America join the party a bit more.
That's partially what we're trying to do. Listen, Brendan, it has been delightful to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking your time and letting us know about the Fremantle International Street Arts Festival. Thanks so much.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.